Good morning, everybody. At least it is for me. How's everybody doing? How about that Conor McGregor getting his ass whooped? Just playing around, don't cry. Anyway, I'm a little bit worried this morning because I was catching up on Gojiman's videos and I don't know if you guys heard, but he has vowed to single-handedly kill the carnivore diet by 2019 or the end thereof. So, you pricks better get ready to start eating vegetables, those of you that don't, and if you do already eat some, well, that's all you're gonna be eating. Because the Gojinator is coming! And you know he's serious because he listens to hip hop and wears hoodies. I don't know how that ascot scarf figures into the new image, but I'm sure you guys noticed he's been wearing dark shades, dressing a little bit differently, and overall acting real tough online, right? Threatening a beast of a man like Sean Baker. But I guess the internet turns cowards into brave men. In it, Goji boy. This frail freak is talking way too much shit for his skinny frame. Don't you think? He's also very manipulative. And I guess it works on all these vulnerable vegans. All the ideologically possessed people who have a confirmation bias and just want to hear what they want to hear. Anyway, I checked out another video from Gojiman where he talks about oxalates, and I wanted to comment a little bit on it. But before I do that, let me give you a personal anecdote when it comes to oxalates. You know, whenever I used to eat spinach or sweet potato leaves or some other high oxalate food, I would get this burning sensation in my throat. And it only took about a leaf or two before that would happen. Now, Gojiman says that you can handle oxalates unless there's something wrong with your gut. Now, how the hell does my gut have anything to do with the fact that my throat burns? Before these oxalates get anywhere close to my gut, my body is telling me, get that shit out of here. Explain that one to me, Gojiman. Anyway, in his video on oxalates, he says a lot of stuff, but one of the things he says is that, and I quote, in its acidic form, oxalic acid is probably one of the most acidic and destructive acids in the body. One of the most acidic and destructive acids in the body. Oxalates can become that. But meat is the bad one. Okay. He also says, and once again, I quote, oxalates for most people with healthy gut function are not normally a problem, unquote. What that actually says is that, well, they're going to be okay for most people, but not everybody. Even if you have a healthy gut, like I do, they're going to be a problem, potentially, right? And then he goes on to say, and once again I quote, they will only become a problem if you are guzzling spinach smoothies every day or if you have destroyed your gut microbiome, unquote. So what he's telling you is that if you get enough oxalates in your body, they will become a problem. Even if you have a healthy gut. You just have to consume enough of this poison for it to become a problem. It has never been shown that meat causes problems. Post the study below if you disagree. Another thing he says is, quote, the average person will consume between 100 to 300 milligrams of oxalates a day, unquote. Now, why the hell would vegans be interested in what the average person will consume? But this is how manipulative this guy is. It doesn't matter what the average person will consume. Tell us how much vegans eat. Because the average person will eat meat, satisfying their hunger and their nutritional needs, and they won't have to guzzle down these spinach smoothies or eat any of these other high oxalate foods in any appreciable quantity, because meat will suffice, or animal products in general, right? But, you know, I think he's engaging in a bit of an equivocation here, right? Average person vegan, one and the same. Hopefully no vegan, no ideologically possessed vegan who wants to hear what they want to hear, who does hear what they want to hear. Well, they won't catch on, will they? So let me manipulate them a little bit. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. And then he goes on to say, and this isn't verbatim, that 2 cups of spinach contain roughly upwards of 1,500 milligrams of oxalate, which is only 60 grams of spinach, right? And that will cause problems if you consume that much in the way of oxalates every day. That will cause problems even if you have a healthy gut. Here's another quote from the same video. So even with a healthy gut function, this coupled with other oxalate foods you are consuming a day will be way above what most people's bodies and guts can tolerate. Right? So if you eat 60 grams of spinach or some other high oxalate food, that along with other oxalates that you will no doubt consume on the daily as a vegan is way too much, way more than what your body, what most people's bodies, even with healthy guts, can tolerate, right? He also states that if you get more than 1,500 milligrams of oxalates in your bloodstream, that could potentially be a lethal dose. Now, obviously, you'd have to have a messed up gut in order for that amount of oxalate to get into your bloodstream, but it can kill you. Oxalates that you consume can kill you, says Gojiman. Man, I could eat pounds and pounds and pounds of meat, and I guarantee you none of that will happen. But meat is the problem, right? What kind of morons listen to this guy and actually believe this nonsense? God, you really have to be stupid not to see what's going on here. So, this is the problem with plants. When some of us say that they're toxic, we're not trying to be overly dramatic, okay? We're not lying to you. We're not trying to scare you. We're just telling you the truth. Plants are toxic, and one of those toxins in these plants are oxalates. And if you go check out this vegan health website and what they have to say about oxalates, according to one of the studies that they cite, 300 milligrams. Anything above 300 milligrams is iffy. But, and I don't know, maybe he's right. He didn't cite any studies. Gojiman says, well, 1,500 to 2,000 is probably a bad dose. And this is the problem with Gojiman and other vegans. They act like spinach and maybe some other green is high in oxalates. And then other foods also contain oxalates, but he just leaves it at that. Now look at this table of oxalate-rich foods. Spinach is very high, but so is rhubarb, rice bran, buckwheat, almonds, miso soup, wheat, corn, potatoes, soy. Every vegan's favorite food. It's in all this processed food you're eating. Soy, beans, beets, bulgur, whatever that is. Cocoa powder. So, chocolate, period, right? Brown rice. Ah, the healthy rice, right? Very high in oxalates. Millet, okra, I guess we covered wheat already. Potatoes, cashews, raspberries, stevia, barley, yams, lentils, nuts, very high in oxalates. I mean, you could just scroll down this list. Dried pineapples, orange. I mean, just go down this list for yourself. Figs, dates, right? All the shit that vegans guzzle down in their smoothies. Veggie burger. You could go check this list out for yourself. Avocado! Very high in oxalates, right? This lists 180 foods, probably something like 50 whole foods that are very high in oxalates. Just about every single plant food contains oxalates. They're so common in the plant kingdom that you even find very low levels of oxalates in dairy because the animals that make milk eat a lot of oxalates, right? So, to sit there and act like oxalates are a minor problem and only certain foods are high in oxalates, your entire vegan diet is toxic, high in oxalates. And unless you're very careful and you have a very healthy gut and you don't eat that much, you're going to eventually run into problems just because of oxalates. But another problem with oxalates is that they prevent calcium absorption, which is why people who, let's say, eat high oxalate foods but also consume dairy at the same time, which is high in calcium, they tend not to have many problems, right? Because dairy contains high levels of calcium. That calcium will bind with oxalates and your body will excrete that. But because your body is excreting calcium oxalate, you're not absorbing much calcium, which is why a lot of vegans have calcium deficiencies. Okay? So while on a standard American diet, which is way healthier than the vegan diet, duh, I can't believe people believe this nonsense, that it isn't, that is. People who eat meat, in other words, because they meet their macronutrient needs a lot easier with a lot less food and food that doesn't have any oxalates in it, or very little if we're talking about dairy. They don't have to eat as much of plant matter, which is very high in oxalates. Thus, if you take out the most nutrient dense, the most nutritious, the most complete, thus the healthiest food out of your diet, thus animal products, you're going to have to compensate that with eating a lot of plants, which is what you hear going on in the vegan community, right? Oh, you failed on the diet because you didn't eat enough calories. You just got to eat more and more and more. As if you could make up nutrient density with volume and not expect other problems to surface, right? Like oxalate poisoning. Let's just call it what it is. And what are some of the problems caused by oxalates? Well, the obvious one is kidney stones, but it's also linked to arthritis. I certainly feel it when I eat a lot of oxalates in my joints. It's also linked to autism and all kinds of other problems. And because it really hasn't been given enough attention, we don't really know what else. Probably gut issues as well. Seeing as when you put them under the microscope, these oxalates look literally like shards of glass. So, this is what we mean when we say that the vegan diet is toxic. And oxalates are just a small part of this toxic equation. It is what it is. And what it is the truth. The truth that Gojiman has to obfuscate, and let's just be real, he has to lie to you in order not to scare you away from the vegan diet, which is a very dangerous diet. that has to be managed oh so carefully. You have to pick and choose your foods oh so carefully. Get the right kinds of supplements in the right amount, and always rely on these gurus who will always know a little bit more than you, staying on top of the latest vegan research, in order to be able to survive eating this shitty ass diet. And that's how people like him stay employed. Because they're pushing a diet that makes you sick, that they will help you manage and not completely destroy your health. Or so they think, or so you think. I guess only time will tell. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.